Hello and welcome to another episode of Who Knew in the Moment, the podcast. I'm your host, Phil Friedrich, and today I'm honored to have Tristan Spurlock with me. Tristan is the Director of Player Development for the Iowa Hawkeyes. Played professionally a long time, and one of the things I think you're going to hear in his story today as we go through it is when you find your passion, you're willing to put in what it takes to get to the pinnacle of your walk. So, Tristan, thanks so much for being on today.
Thank you for having me, Phil. Man, I'm excited, ready to talk and talk some hoops.
Let's do it. So, to start your story, there's probably a lot that even happens before this, but in
Mm.
seventh grade, you were playing a basketball game and your dad came to it. And after the game, he just had a conversation with you about some critical feedback because he didn't necessarily think you maybe gave it everything. So, talk a little
Yeah.
bit about, getting into hoops as a youngster and then that conversation with your dad and why that was so important to you.
You know what? It's funny because I'm from, the Washington, D.C. area where so many great basketball players have came from. So from a young age, I've been playing against a lot of talent, been played with a lot of talent. And it's funny because in middle school where I'm from, you're allowed to play, there's a JV and a varsity. So, I was getting better. I was growing. It's probably like 6'2", 6'3", still exploring like the abilities of what I can do, my guard or my forward, just, still figuring it out. And I was playing on the varsity, right, of the middle school. So pretty much playing against eighth graders. I'm one of the youngest kids. And my dad, he was selling computer training at the time, making commissions. So if he didn't work, he didn't get paid. And that was kind of like, the motto, like, hey, if I'm not at work, I'm not getting paid. You can't get the things you and your sisters need. So, hey, I need to work.
Yeah.
And on this particular game day, he came to see me play. I'm playing against this kid named Jason Clark, eighth grader, one of the better eighth graders, ended up going to Georgetown. So it was a really good kid, probably the best eighth grader in the area and the state. And at times I was just happy to be out there. Like, hey, I'm playing up. In middle school, it's kind of cool. I'm on the varsity, and I didn't have a great game. And I remember my dad getting me in the car, and he looked at me. He was like, "Look, man, I'm losing money coming to see you play. So if you're not gonna take this serious, if you're not gonna come and work and play, then I will see you next year. I'm gonna come to
Yeah.
your next game next year." And I kind of like was my first time really hitting me like, oh, like I need to take this a little bit more serious. And for me, one thing my dad did was he let me play a lot. Like he used to drop me off at men's leagues and rec centers and just would drop me off for hours, and I would just play, or I would take the bus from school straight to whatever rec was wide open, and I would play and boys and girls clubs and everything. And my dad didn't play basketball, so a lot of it was just kind of like, all right, man, like he learned the game, he saw the game and saw in his mind wanted it played a certain way, and he was like, hey, I might not be able to physically show you, so I'm gonna just drop you off at some of these places and you go figure some of this stuff out. And that was my first like eye-opening moment. I'm like, oh, okay, I gotta take this a little bit more serious. But that led me to some great moments, man. So I appreciate that moment for sure.
Yeah. Now, just kind of highlighting what you mentioned there, hey, going and playing in a men's league, just going to, a gym, playing some open gym. I- And once again, we're going to talk about in the scope of basketball, but someone listening right now is taking this as a tidbit for business. And I think there's always something about surrounding yourself with people that are maybe, one level ahead of you in some aspect, right? So for a 12-year-old Tristan to go to a men's league, it might be the physicality of the game, right? It might be the just wherewithal to know when to pass the ball, right? Those types of things. So talk a little about, learning with just getting thrown into the situation and, playing with different styles and learning how to play the game in different ways.
So I was smart, right? Like I knew that the men's league started or the men pickup started at like 6. I got out of school at 3:30. I get there around 4. I'd work out by myself, shooting, hooping from 4 to 6. And the way we did it back then was first 10 people in the gym automatically played.
Mm.
So I was like, oh, I'm gonna get my workout in, and I know I'm gonna get at least one game. And if we win, I'm gonna get 2 games, and we
Yeah.
keep playing. So I would always the first or second, like I'm always in there, ready to go, and I would always get one game. So I would work out 2 hours, and then I get one game. And what I noticed was how serious, where I'm from, how serious everybody was taking those games. You know what I mean? Like, and how serious I took that game because I didn't want to come off, and if I came off, I wasn't getting back on. Right? I was skinny. I was still like going against grown men. It's a different physicality. So like I knew, hey, and if I play well this one game and we lose, somebody might maybe pick me up the last 20 minutes at the open gym.
Yeah.
Like for me, that's kind of how I did it, man. Like I came in, I worked out by myself for about 2 hours, and then I set it up where I was like, all right, I get one game. I got to go hard as I can. And I did. I was scrappy. I was physical and tried, to play my best. And, those pickups led me to, be ready to play right away in a lot of situations, whether it be AAU, where I was in eighth grade and I was playing for my dad's team. I wasn't playing for like a fancy AAU team, playing for my dad's team and the DC Blue Devils at the time. They wanted me to go with them to Vegas. And my
Yeah.
mom, no way you taking my baby boy to Vegas. They wanted me to play up. They wanted me to play 16s. And my dad was like, he's in eighth grade, play 16s might be a little too much. And the coach was like very adamant, like, no, he's going to be fine. Like he's good. And I went out there and kind of the rest was history. I had a good 16s out in Vegas, which that used to be like a very big event out
Big
there. And
event.
I played 17s one game because somebody got hurt and I came back and I was, one of the better kids in the country. I was a top 25 kid after that. So that kind of, those men's leagues, kind of propelled me to that to where I was able to play 16s and 17s. And I never really played my age group after that. After that, I was either playing 16s, 17s until it was time to my last year. So it was a blessing. And, looking back on it, man, if it wasn't for those, days leaving the gym or getting one game, or getting two games that, I wouldn't have been ready for the moment to, play up and be physical and be ready for it.
So I love the phrase, stay ready so you don't have to get ready, right?
Yeah.
And I think, what you're talking about is, hey, I put in so much work, I put in so much
Mhm.
effort that when the 17s called me up, there might have been a little butterfly in your stomach, right? Just
For
for the
sure.
excitement of the game. But like
Yeah.
you also knew, hey, I'm ready. Like I've put in the effort. I know I can get my shot off. I know I can defend, at this age or at this level. So talk a little bit about that element for you of just putting in all that preparation and how that builds confidence when the opportunity comes.
For me, it was simple. Like, my dad, I never forget. And he's gonna watch this and be like, yeah, he's gonna feel good. I remember
That's
when
calling me
Kevin Garnett,
out.
I remember when Kevin Garnett signed for like $100 million, like the first like big contract. And
Yeah.
my dad woke me up at like 5 a.m., right? And he's the one who really instilled that like work ethic for me to really wake up early. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Like work out. So I was like, very at a young age, we didn't have too many gym memberships back then. We would go outside. So I was at a young age, like hooping outside, playing outside. Then I got older a little bit. Then that's when he let me kind of go inside. But I always, had that like wake up and work. And I got that from my mom and dad. They woke up every day and they went to work. And I was blessed that my grandma was in the house and she lived with us and she kind of took care of the stuff at home while they had to work. And they had me at a very young age. So I kind of saw them, figure it out as adults and figuring out how to work hard and still manage a house and manage all of us. I got two beautiful younger sisters and who just graduated from college themselves. So, I think I was, that work ethic was instilled in me at a young age. So when it came to basketball, my dad always laughed and was like, I don't know if you could do a 9 to 5. I don't know if you really want to do anything else, but you love basketball. Like one thing you'll do is you'll play basketball. So son, do that for the rest of your life because you
Yeah.
will wake up at 5 to play. You will play till 11 o'clock at night. Like I know you love basketball. Now anything outside of this, I can't really co-sign for you. And I took that to heart. And I took
Yeah.
that to, even now, like I love basketball. I want to do basketball for the rest of my life. I want to be around the game. I want to teach the game. I want to give back to the game that gave me so many great memories and things that I'll never forget. So for me, I knew basketball was something I was always going to be part of and want to do. Never in my wildest dreams that I think that I'd be, at the Big Ten level at 33 years old, right? We were joking before, like I thought I was going to play till I was 50,
Yeah.
because I just loved playing so much. And now I'm at a position where I can give back. And it was just that work ethic and being ready and staying ready was instilled in me at such a young age.
Now, what do you think it is about basketball that makes you so passionate? And one thing I want to throw out there, and Tristan, I have zero idea. You might say, Phil, this has never even, been a part of my life. But I think, so frequently especially in our younger years, we can really stand out because of a sport, right? Or because of something that we're known for. And we'll get to the rest of your story, but you've had a fortunate career where D1 professional
Yeah.
basketball. And it's like that's always been something that really stands out for you. And I think sometimes having that thing where maybe we get a little notoriety or we get some
Mhm.
attention from it can really drive us to keep pursuing and getting better at it. But what is it about basketball for you that you just fell in love with and that you love about it?
I'm come from a very competitive household,
Yeah.
man. Like sometimes the Monopoly board would get flipped over if guys lose out. I kind of like we play spades all the time. Like
Yeah.
I come from a very, very competitive house where like, back to my dad and my sisters played tennis growing up, and I would have bad games. He'd be like, "Well, it's okay. You could just be their tennis boy. The guy who comes gets the tennis ball when it hits the. You can go do that. It's okay. They'll give you a job." And I used to be like, it just
Yeah.
his way of kind of like Jedi mind tricks a little bit. But man, I'm so competitive. I loved competing. I loved competing at the levels every year that I was competing at with certain guys. And once you kind of, get that taste of like, oh man, like I'm starting to have some success, you want it even more. You want to be even better.
Yeah.
And, I went to a high school where competing was just, if you didn't compete, you couldn't even have a chance. Competing was like number one on the list. Like talent is cool, but if you didn't come every day ready to at least, physically battle, you didn't even have a chance to, I had D1 guys all everywhere I looked. My whole starting five went to a high major Division One. So, for me, it was the competition. I loved it, and I did love what it brought. The status of like, oh man, I'm getting good, I'm getting better. And back then, it's a lot different now. Back then, if you were really good, your AU team, they give you some shoes. They would send you
Yeah.
shoes, or whoever would send you, a pair of shoes, or you can get invited to this camp, or would be ranked this, and that I love that part of it. I love to see that part. And I think all guys my age, that 33-year-old age where, Rivals was a thing or scout.com was a thing. Like, those are only two sites you had back then. So you had
Yep.
to, I'm number this or I'm number that. Like it was a sense of pride. And I did love that. And I did love the competition and also seeing kind of like the fruits of my labor at a young age. And, what comes with that then is, getting recruited. Like like the calls and as you get a certain age, Clemson calls, Wake Forest calls, UVA, Georgetown, Maryland, and it was all of those things probably put together the reason why like I loved basketball the way I did.
Absolutely. Well, I got to drop this because you mentioned, rivals and slam. I don't know if you were a slam guy, but
Oh
you hit
man,
that
yeah,
rookie diary right there.
yeah,
That
yeah, yeah,
year.
yeah. That was big time. I remember being in Slam and like being in Dime. I was in Dime magazine, right?
Yeah.
Like that. I had like a little cutout in Dime, and like my uncles and some of my mom and daddy still have that magazine. So it's so cool to see now where like I'm done.
Yeah.
Like yes, I play in the men's league.
Yep.
Playoffs start next week. I need to be locked in and ready. But like I'm
That's a
done.
cheat code. You in a men's league in Iowa, there's a cheat code
I'm
right there.
done. Listen, I'm done. But like now I kind of get to look back at some of those things and now I could be like, wow, like that was cool. At the moment I wanted more. Like I couldn't really, rest on your laurels a little bit. Now I'm kind of like, man, I'm so, thankful that I was able to do those things.
Yeah. So you hinted at it, but in high school you end up going to Montrose, and
Hmm.
Montrose is, I mean, a national powerhouse. And so
Right.
talk a little bit about, if what the decision was like to go there, if it was just kind of, hey, once the offer, the conversation came up, it was a no-brainer, or if there was, other places that you had been considering going.
Man, it's kind of crazy that again, eighth grade, I kind of came back and I blew up and we weren't really prepared for that.
Yeah.
I don't think. And part of me, I was just gonna go to my local high school, like I'm gonna go to Woodbridge High. I went to Woodbridge Middle and go to Woodbridge High. Like what's the big deal? And late in the process, I started to talk to Montrose a little bit, Bishop O'Connell, Joe Wooten. I told them I was gonna think about coming there. So I had options to go to different schools. But I did my freshman year at Woodbridge Senior High School, and it was cool. It was fun. My grandma in particular started to notice like, all right, you're kind of a big fish in a small pond. Like you're not really getting challenged. You're coming home some days without your book bag. Like you're enjoying this a little too much, man. Like you need to go somewhere where you're challenged every day, and
Yeah.
you guys are really pushing you. And I took another visit out there to Montrose, and I liked it, and I liked the things Stu Vetter was telling me. And after my season at Montrose, I mean at Woodbridge High School, I went straight to Montrose, and that's when another level, a different type of work and competitiveness that I got to learn, and that's really where I started to see like, okay, like as good as I think I am, it's guys better. And I remember my first day, my first day, I got dunked on. I got dunked on bad. It was like my first time really being dunked on. Like you get a little dunk here, like a rim grazer. I got really dunked on, and I got in the car. My dad picked me up. He was like, "Hey, you ready to go home?" I was like, "Yeah, we can go home." And he was like, "Okay." I said, "No, no, no. We can go home. Like this was cool. Saw what I need to work on. I'm good to go, buddy. Like this is a little different." And he was like, "Not a chance." And he brought me back up, and he brought, my dad drove me from Woodbridge, the area
Yeah.
to Rockville, Maryland, and we did that every single day for 2 years. And the commitment and the drive to do that, man, I thank him and my mom so much for just allowing me to do it and changed my life. I got the chance to really be recruited at a high level. Got to play against some of the best teams in the country. Got to have great games against them, and got to establish myself as one of the best players in the country because of that.
Absolutely. So to that, you end up being Virginia Player of the Year.
Yep.
And when you're the Player of the Year in any state, you're going to get a whole bunch of offers, and
Yeah.
you end up deciding that, hey, Virginia is the place that I'm going to go. So talk a little bit about kind of the recruiting process. What made you decide on Virginia, and then your first year there.
Man, it was crazy. So I only did 2 years at Montrose. I kind of knew where I wanted to go after my junior year. Kind of was like, all right, I'm down to these three schools. It was Maryland, Georgetown, UVA. Wanted to stay home. I knew that kind of early in the process.
Yeah.
Wake Forest recruited me hard. Andy Enfield over at Florida State, he recruited me really hard. He was actually my first offer,
Hmm.
offered me going into my ninth grade year. He offered me. So like I've been recruited by some schools. I wanted to stay close to home. With that, I transferred out of Montrose to a smaller private school, Word of Life in Virginia, Springfield, Virginia. Wanted to be close to home. Kind of like, all right, I did my time. I know where I'm kind of want to go. Let me go to a smaller school, be close to my mom and dad, and take a little bit of stress off them from having to drive me up to Rockville. And
Yeah.
that's where, I kind of like really blossomed to another level. I mean, I had games against like schools like IMG where I had like 45 points, and I was really like finding my niche as, a little bit less of a team guy, but more of a like, all right, I could really score this ball. Like you give me
Yeah.
the ball, I could really go get a basket and go get a bucket. Um, and I committed to UVA under Dave Lato and his staff
Yeah.
originally. So I
Yeah.
committed to him. It was Georgetown, UVA at the last minute. Mom really wanted me to go to Georgetown to this day. She's always like, shit. She's from DC. She's from Southeast DC. So like, I know she wanted me to go to Georgetown. And my dad just kind of wanted me to go to the place that he thought I was going to have the best, quickest impact.
Yeah.
Uh, with being Virginia Player of the Year, I thought, going to UVA under Dave Lato and his staff was a great decision. They got fired midway through my senior year, and Tony Bennett got the job. And Tony Bennett, got the job Wednesday morning, and he was at my house Wednesday night, and that was a huge impression on my family.
Yeah.
And I only took one more. I took another official visit there back to UVA, and I loved everything that they were talking about at the time, and I decided to go there. I decided, and I had some of my closest and best friends are still at that school. Some memories and things I did in that 1 year where I was there was like amazing, But the recruiting process was great, man. I mean, schools like Texas, USC, and it's funny. I'm on this side of it now, and some of those coaches are still out. You know what I mean? Like Coach
Yeah.
Cox from Maryland, he recruited me. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it's always crazy to me where I'm like, man, like you recruited me, or like I'll see. I saw Andy Enfield when he was at USC, and now he's at SMU, and he was like, "You remember I was your first offer?" And I was like, "Yeah." Like it's just a hilarious thing. And they're like, "Man, we getting old. Like, are you like you getting into this now?" Like, so it was cool. It was a great process. Had a lot of fun with it. I had some great offers from some people that I really respect. Still do respect, and like I said, I committed twice to UVA. I chose UVA twice in that process.
Now, as you started to describe, finding your niche and where you were really excelling, understanding Tony Bennett's style at UVA versus what you were finding to be your
Yeah.
maybe forte, those two things just don't necessarily line up perfectly well,
Right.
right? I mean, if you're
Right.
scoring 45 in a game, UVA might score, 50 in the game.
Yeah, and to Tony's credit, like I think he wanted to play a certain way,
Yeah.
and when you get somewhere, you just go back to what you know,
Yep.
and that was kind of like my first time where I was like, very shocked, where I was like, wait a minute, you told me I was going to come in and I was going to have this freedom, and even to more to his credit, in practice, he gave me the freedom, like
Yeah.
it was no secret. In practice, I was scoring, I'm getting a bucket, and I wouldn't slide my feet though, I
Yeah.
wasn't in the
Yeah.
gap, I wasn't pack line. But in my mind, I was like, "Hey, man, I'm a hired gun. You called me here to score. This is what I'm coming to do. I'm coming to get to a basket." I was great on scout team. I
Yeah.
gave him a fifth on scout team. I'm telling you, I scored it. And then, we sat down the end of the year. He wanted me to stay another year. They all wanted me to. I don't think that I just fit the system and what they wanted to do. Still, hats off to them. I still see some of those guys on the road. Coach McKay was at Liberty. Coach Williford's still there. Coach Sanchez is back there now. My guy Ronnie Hillman is still there. It's funny. They have an assistant coach, Johnny Carpenter. He was my manager. You know what I mean? And now he's an assistant. So like those guys, I still respect them 110%. I learned a lot. I learned what a high level college looks like, and it helped me once I wanted to transfer and see what else was out there. And I chose University of Central Florida,
Yeah.
and I took a lot of those things, a lot of the work ethic I saw from other guys, who I still really close with, Mike Scott, Jontel Evans, Silvis Landesberg, Jeff Jones, Mustafa Farrakhan, like Jerome Mienzi. He was a senior my freshman year. We ended up playing 3 seasons together overseas. Like, and he
Crazy.
was treating me like a freshman. He was still treating me like I was the 18-year-old kid, and I had to keep reminding him, like, grown, Jerome, I'm grown. Like, stop talking to me like. And we still talk all the time. So the things I got from UVA, I could never, turn my back on or like not appreciate because it really molded me going into my next phase of life.
Well, and I think something that's like a good, once again, just takeaway is, and once again, this transcends basketball, but it's like just
Mhm.
because someone's doing something and it might work well, it doesn't mean it's a good fit for you, right? Because I
Exactly.
mean, to Tony Bennett's credit, like guy had an amazing career and congrats on his retirement, right? But
Right.
you just go, yeah, I mean, hey, it just wasn't the perfect fit. And that doesn't mean you're wrong. It doesn't mean he's wrong. It's just not
Right.
a perfect fit for the two of you. So as you kind of get to that moment of realizing, hey, this isn't where I'm going to stay, you open up the, transfer doors and start evaluating things. What about UCF, led you there opposed to maybe reevaluating some of the schools that had been higher on the list before you had selected UVA?
It's a different day and age. Like I couldn't go to the ACC,
Hmm.
and all of the schools that were really recruiting me were in the ACC. So like I had to kind of branch out. Donnie Jones recruited me when he was at Florida. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So when he was at Florida winning national championships, he was writing me letters. So
Yeah.
I love the style that he played with coming from there. I loved just how family oriented he was when I got down there. We had great conversations. To this day, another guy who I talk to all the time, man. Coach Jones did a great job this past year at Stetson. But when I got down there, it just felt like home. Some of my teammates, we played pickup, and I liked the way we were playing. At the time, Michael Jordan's kids were there,
Yeah.
so that was kind of like a unique thing, a shock, and I like
You
what
get a
we were
run with
building.
Jordan?
Say it again.
You gonna get a run in with Jordan, MJ?
With Mike, well, maybe Marcus Jordan. I got right with Marcus, his son. Yeah.
I didn't know if MJ, showed up
Oh
to
no, Mike was
bump
too
into
good.
him.
Mike. No, 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 Mike would do it. Funny story. Okay, so my dad comes to the first practice of every year. No
Yeah.
matter where I'm at, he'll come to the first practice. That's it though. He doesn't get involved. He's not calling. First practice of every year. So my sit out year, because this is back, now you go transfer and play right away. When I was at UCF, you had to sit out. I had to sit out. So I'm there, I'm practicing. And like any dad, Michael Jordan's there. You got both his sons there. Jeff had just transferred in from Louisville. I mean, excuse me, from Illinois.
Illinois,
So
yeah.
he was there kind of watching. And he ended up sitting next to my dad. Like two dads just sitting, talking basketball, watching their sons. So at the end, bring it in, huddle up, clap it up, whatever. And Coach Jones goes, we got a dad over there that he knows a little bit about basketball. He's going to say a couple things. My dad stands up. And I'm like, no, man, he's not talking about you. Sit down. Sit down. He's not talking. He stands up. He kind of looks, and everybody kind of laughs. He's like, oh, he must mean you. Like talking about Mike. Oh, he must be talking about you. And then Mike gets up there, says a couple words for us. But even that, like having Michael Jordan at your practices, and it happened a lot. Like it wasn't like you saw him once every blue moon. Like he'll pop up randomly, check on his kids. Like my dad would come fly in, come to a game here and there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was kind of like a funny moment just watching him over there just talking to dads and talking golf. My dad likes golf. They talk
Okay,
golf.
yeah.
It was really cool to see that. But yeah, just moments where leaving, and I think now as a coach I look back on it, and when the portal is so heavy now, what I mean, it's nothing to recruit guys out of the portal.
Yep.
And when I do talk to these guys, I tell them like, hey, just because it didn't work there, or just because some things didn't go your way there, doesn't mean that's who you are, or you can't be better than that.
Yeah. I love that. Well, as your time in UCF goes, you have great success there, and so that leads to, well, what's next? And in the summer league, you don't get drafted, but in the summer league, you get to go play with the Pistons. So talk a little bit about, getting that opportunity in the summer league and, hey, evaluating that, because I would imagine that, part of your drive was, hey, someday I would like to play in the NBA.
Oh man, for
So
sure.
talk about that moment in time.
I think everybody's like dream is to play in the NBA, right? Like you
Yeah.
you want that. You want your name to be called. You want to be, first round pick. You want to go up there with, at that time for me it was David Stern,
Yep.
mom and dad, quit your jobs. Like, of course, that's every, kid who's really in it and living it and loving it and breathing it wants to do. I had a good career at UCF. I could have been a little better. I always tell myself, like, if I just work 10% harder, that's what I
Mm,
tell these guys here. Like, just give me 10 more percent. I'm not asking you to, give me 50 or 60. If you work just 10 more percent, I'm guaranteed things can change for you.
mm,
I look back on that. And I'm like, man, if I worked just a little bit harder, things could have been different. But I had a good career. At the end of my career, I had several NBA workouts, which helped me. I worked out for the Hawks. I worked out for the Knicks, the Jazz. I worked out for. I'm drawing a blank now. I can't even think. The Magic. So I worked out for like 8 or 9 NBA teams, and it was great. And at the end of it, I had a good agent. My agent, called me on draft night and was like, "Hey, the Pistons want you to come work out on draft night, on draft day that morning." I was thinking, and they didn't have any second round picks. So I was like, I'm okay. You know what I mean? Like I did this whole run and all my workouts came the last 2 weeks.
yeah.
So I literally, the last 2 weeks of the whole process, I went from Utah to New York to Atlanta to Denver to like for 2 weeks straight, 8 workouts. So I was like, look, no disrespect to the Pistons, they're not gonna draft me tonight. You know what I mean? Like I'm
Yeah.
gonna go home, see my family. I haven't seen them. I want to just, go to the movies. And while I was in the movies, my agent was like blowing up my phone. And I'm like, oh no, like what's going on? So I run out and he was like, hey, the Pistons want to, do summer league. And they want to know right now, do you want to do summer league? If so, they will not take this guy because they want you to play. They will
Mm,
give you a chance to play. And for sure. Like,
yeah. Yeah.
it's a no-brainer for me,
Right.
So I averaged 10 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists. I got to play against some guys that I grew up, you know, watching. Vernon, Ticket from he's a Virginia guy. Kendrick Perry, he played on that Orlando team, and they had all their starters. They had Aaron Gordon out there. They had all their guys. Victor Oladipo, a DC guy, was out there. I got to play against them, and for me, it was in Orlando, and I went to school at UC, so it was a beautiful moment. And then right after that. I got drafted in the first round, 19th pick overall in the G League draft, so to the Canton Charge. And that was another, crazy moment where the assistant GM at the time is now one of the head scouts for the Cavs, and he was walking into our practice and he was like staring at me. And I'm like, who's this guy staring? And I walk up and he was like, man, I drafted you. He was like, I drafted you. And I was like, oh, Brendan, you.
Yeah.
He drafted me. You know what I mean? So it's a great moment. And sometimes I laugh at, how life works. But yeah, right after college, I got to play in the G League. And then right after the G League, I went overseas and I did that for about 9 years. Played places, like China and Hungary. I went to my first year. I went to the championship
Yeah.
in Hungary. Played against a EuroLeague team, and I thought, oh, this is easy. I'll be back every year, And I didn't go back to the championship till my last year, where I won a championship in Mexico,
Yeah.
which was a beautiful thing, man. Played with a lot of great players there, so I had a fun career.
Now, a question I have is, you have the realization that, hey, I'm probably not going to get drafted into the
Hmm.
NBA draft, but I get the summer league opportunity. I put on a good performance. It gets me a G League draft. Was there any emotional side of you that was, I've been striving for the NBA for so long, like that was the ultimate goal, and to not quite get there, but to be close, like that, that first year, not, in college, but performing in the professional level, that you were like, man, I really hope I get back there. Or was it kind of the realization, hey, I'm going to have to pivot into, international, and it's going to be a great opportunity, but it's just not the NBA that I've been striving for.
Well, funny enough, my agent at the time told me, "Hey, like we have a great deal for you in Romania. Like, do not do the G League. Like the G League
Mm,
is a totally different ball game. I know you think you're close, but like go here and let's do this." And I was so like set on like no. I just came from I thought a good summer league,
yeah.
and this summer I was also playing back in DC at the Kenner League, and I was playing against pros and NBA guys, and I'm like killing them. So I'm thinking to myself like, no, I am right here. I'm this close. And granted, like, summer league, right? Like in the summertime, pickup ball is not how these guys are playing. They're not going full speed. You know what I
Yep.
mean? So,
Yep.
no, I won a summer league championship in DC with the Kenner League. And, I was like, no, I'm close. And my agent was like, Tris, I'm telling you, I got a situation overseas for you that's really good. And And when I got drafted, first round in the G League draft, I was kind of like, nah, I'm right there.
Yeah.
I even started my first like 6, 7 games, and quickly I realized how much of a business it was when they send somebody down. You are no longer starting. You
Yep.
are that guy's getting 30 minutes, and it was Joe Harris, and Alex Kirk. When they
Yep.
sent those guys down, they getting the shots, they getting the minutes. It's just what it is, when they want to go back up to the club, that hey, back to you being, you playing. And I realized that wasn't for me. I was like, hey, I'm killing these guys in practice, but they get to go back up, then they come back to like, I'm good. You know what? Let's try overseas. And again, yeah, it's humbling. It is for sure. But I embraced it, man. I loved my time overseas. I loved all the places I played. I had great teammates who I still stay in contact with. We laugh and joke about certain things, not getting our money on time. We laugh about that. I got a group chat, that's just about what my some of my guys, we didn't get paid for like months, and we had
Yep.
to figure out how to like survive. And so I enjoyed the overseas part of it. And it is like a little gut punch a little bit to your ego, right? Because like we talked about earlier, the things you love from playing basketball, competitiveness, but like the stroke of the ego too, like where you're ranked and you're projected this in the first round, you're projected that, and then it doesn't happen. And
Yep.
then, you have to figure out who you are very quickly. And like you realize I'm not just a basketball player. I'm
Yeah.
a brother, I'm a son, like I love what I do, but that isn't who I am. I'm
Yeah.
so much more than this. And my faith played a huge part in that, right? Like
Mhm.
my dad's a minister. I grew up in the church. So for me, going through a lot of these tough times, I really relied on God and just thanked him for everything he blessed me with. I remember when I left the G League, right? Like I had to drive from Canton, Ohio, all the way back to Washington, D.C., right? Because they didn't pay for my flight. They just were going to reimburse me. This is when we were the D League.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is D League. This is
Right. Right.
the D League. D League
Yep.
wouldn't buy your flight back home. All right. You want to leave? Cool. We'll burst you. Tell us how long it took you. We'll send you about $100. So driving back, and I remember my mom just being like, doing what moms do, trying to encourage me. And I was kind of being all sour and short. She was like, "Are you healthy?" And I'm like, "Yeah." She was like, "Can you still run and jump and shoot?" I was like, "Yeah." She was like, "Well, get here, work out, and go play and go keep playing. Like you're fine." And I was just like, "You know what? Okay, let's do it." And my first year overseas in Hungary, I was, won the dunk contest and was led the All-Star game in scoring. Like it was an amazing transition into being overseas. Took my team that didn't go to the playoffs to the championship with some great young guys, and we had like a lot of fun. And for me, again, like I relied on my faith, I relied on my parents and my small circle of people who, really believed in me no matter where I was playing. And it was just, a beautiful thing, honestly.
I love that. Now, for you in the course of being overseas in the summers,
Mhm.
or in the I shouldn't say summers, in the off seasons, right? You'd
Right.
be able to come back home, and at some point, the idea of getting into coaching happens at the very end of
Yeah.
that season in
Yeah.
Mexico where you went to the championship. So, talk a little bit about the connection to Iowa, Coach McCaffery, and kind of how the idea of coaching came to be.
Man, I was here in Iowa City. My kid's mom was here, and during the pandemic, she was pregnant. So we decided to be here. And when we were here, I was looking for gyms to work out. You know what I mean? I knew no one. I knew one person. I knew her, and then we were having kids, and I didn't know what to do as far as my workouts. Like I was finding random gyms and 30, 40 minutes away. So I found this guy named Daryl Moore, and he owned a gym, Court 45. He used to play at Iowa, and he used to let me in the gym at night from 9 to whenever I wanted. Hey, we close up at 9, 9:30 on. You can do whatever you want here. And it was 2 full courts, a shooting gun, like jump rope. So I was like a kid in a candy store. I
Yeah.
was good. I finally found
Yep.
it. And you go through that process. I had 2 kids, beautiful daughter Alea, my son Taj, and I was at the point where I was like missing them. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like, did I miss my mom and my sisters and my friends? Yeah, it's different when you have kids. And I was like truly not caring anymore. Like, like, all right, we won by 10. All right, let me call my daughter. All right, we lost. All right, well, Taj had a bellyache. I'm really, my mind was kind of getting elsewhere. And when I would come home in the summer times, I was setting up these pro runs, right? So people in Iowa were coming to with the gym I was working out of, and they were playing pickup at night. And at some point, I was setting up like the college kids from Iowa were coming in, and I had this skinny kid come in one day, super skinny kid come in, and we playing 3-on-3. Mind you, I'm playing. because I'm getting ready to go overseas.
Yeah, right.
Like, these guys are helping me. Like I need to go against them. They keeping me young. A lot of one-on-one battles, and skinny kid comes in. He's dunking, he's shooting, and he's like, "Hey, I heard you work people out." Mind you, I'm like maybe a month into working people out. Like
Yeah.
I'm just starting to really like learn my own way of how I want to work people out. And he's like, "You want to work me out?" I'm like, all right, cool. What's your name? He's like, my name's Patrick. I was like, okay, cool. We'll work out, whatever. Man, so we start working out. We start doing that whole process, and come to find out, it's Coach McCaffery's son. And I'm not from Iowa, so I didn't really know much,
Yeah.
about Iowa. And when you're in playing pro, you kind of like lose a little bit of that college basketball, what's going on back
Yeah.
home. So I meet Patrick, and me and him hit it off. To this day, like it's one of my closest people. Like, I'm working him out. He's getting better. Then I start working out Filip Rebraca, the starting center. Start
Yeah.
working him out. Now, instead of two people from Iowa coming to play pickup, I got 8 guys coming. So now I got 2 courts going of guys, and I had DJ Carton, who's with the Toronto Raptors. I had Nicholas Baer, who played at Iowa back in there, playing in the G League. So I got a lot of guys coming in, hooping. And at this time, it's probably like July, right? Or maybe June, right? So I finished. Now it's about June time frame, and the season had just ended for them. They just won the Big Ten championship, went to the tournament, had a successful season, and Coach Spurlock decides he wants to retire. He's done. Another assistant coach, Billy Taylor, he goes to Elon. So they promoted Coach Courtney Eldridge up to assistant coach. They had that director of player development, excuse me, position open. And I had known Coach McCaffery for about 3 years now. And I just remember I just sat down and asked him, like, hey, if that position is open, I would love to take it. And it was funny because he kind of looked at me. He was like, Trish, you just played pickup with our guy. Like, you look good. Like,
Yeah.
you look great. Like, this is what
Yeah.
you want to stop? You want to do this? And I'm like, Coach, I have a lot of friends. And they started all different areas, NIA, D2, low D1. If I, at that time I was 30. If I at 30 years old can start right here at the Big Ten level, I will stop right now. And the funniest thing is he didn't promise it. Like he said, hey, we got to go through this process. We got to do this. We got to do that. I had to meet with then AD Gary Barta. I had to go through a couple, interviews with a committee. And even when I think back on it, when I first started, I don't even think he knew what he was getting in hiring me. I don't think he kind of knew like how I would say obsessed that I was going to be about, making sure I go to work every single day doing the best I can.
Mhm.
And I just remember maybe like I want to say maybe like 2 weeks in, he looked at me. He was like, "Man, you're gonna do this for a long time. Like,
Yeah.
you could do this for as long as you want to do this. Like, you got it. And you just gotta do, this, and this." And I was like, "Okay." And for me, I take a lot of the things that my dad instilled in me. I instill here. You know what I mean? Like, I got a group, and we work out every single day, 7 a.m. I get here about 6:15, and it's nothing for me. Like, I could wake up like that because again, it's basketball, man. Like, at the end of the day, I don't overcomplicate this thing. I don't act like I invented the wheel. It is basketball, and the thing I love about basketball is, unlike other things, I've very rarely ever seen a guy put in the time and the effort
Mhm.
and really, dedicate himself to the game and not get somewhat better.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say they could be great. I'm not even
Yep.
going to say they could be the best player in the world, but I've never seen a guy put in work and not see the fruits of his labor from the work that he put in. Now, on the flip side of that, I have seen guys not put in the work or not work as hard and try to like, oh, I'm not getting it. Yeah, you're not putting in the time you need to put in at a certain level to get where you want to get to.
Yep. Well, and I want to tie that comment back to what you were saying earlier about the
Hmm.
10%. I
Hmm.
think for so many people, you you only know what you see, right? And so a kid might be the hardest worker from his high school,
Right.
but if you didn't get exposed to the best high school in the state, or if you didn't get exposed to
Yeah.
this league, all of a sudden you don't even realize there's a whole nother level. And so talk a
Yeah.
little bit about how you get that extra 10%, how you pull that extra 10% out of guys
Man,
when maybe they don't even want to, or they don't know that they're not giving that extra
right.
10%.
I call it daily deposits.
Mm,
I like to, the reason I like these workouts is, and I do it differently than I did when I started. Now I do, two people. I like to work out guys in groups, 2 guys, because I like for those 2 guys to have something to like get through.
yeah.
And my workouts are tough. I only do 40-minute workouts. I don't need you for an hour because we work out a lot. Work out 3, 4 days a week. I don't need you for an hour and 15 plus with the season. Summertime, it varies, but I probably get you in there 30, 35 minutes. And I want you to have that guy with you to be like, man, we got to get through this. Like Tristan is
Yeah.
killing us. Like, he is nuts. Like
Yeah.
what he's doing to us today is like, but I need you guys to get through it. and I like to work out with them in the mornings and throughout the day, and I like to call it daily deposits, and I like to do it a lot. So you see me at 7 in the morning with you. You see me at 7:30. You see me at 11 o'clock at night. We got guys who like to go at night. Say, dude, Trayor, he loves to work out at night. Patrick McCaffery he's a night guy. But like, I want to be there with you, right? Like I'm super hands on in the work we do and how we talk, what we look at, and I'm just putting those deposits in you, right? I'm dropping those coins in you, dropping those coins, dropping those coins. Now when we get to Assembly Hall, now when we get to Michigan State, we get to Michigan, we get on the road at Iowa State, and you're not playing the way I think you should play, I can kind of grab you a little bit and be like, hey, my man, let's go. Like
Right.
let's pick this up. And you
Yep.
know why you don't take that in a negative way? Because we've been together at 6 a.m. We've been
Yep.
together at 7 a.m. We've been together and I've dropped those coins in you. So now hey, I know you better than this. You know how I know? Because we made those shots together.
Yep.
That pin down where you're going to come off one dribble pull up. Yeah, we did that a million times. So I'm going to need you to shoot that like we shot that there. And I just drop those coins in, drop them in every single day. So then when we get to, hey, Big Ten championship game, we got to have this basket. I know, that what I expect of you because we've done it together a million times. So for me, that's how I get those out of those guys. And then I'm intentional with them. I go have lunch with them. I get out of here. I get out of this
Yep.
space in the gym. I let them see me in other places. I bring my kids
Yeah.
around. Probably too much. My son Taj is at 2 years old. I don't know what to do. He loves basketball, and I kind of am at the stage where I'm like, I don't need you being like a 3-year-old phenom, bro. Like, I don't need you to love it like this, but he loves it. So now bring him in the gym, my daughter as well, and I like for them to see me outside of this space too, and we talk, and on the road we do daily devotions on the road, and just kind of see me in a different light. So when things get tough a little bit, they know when I'm coaching them hard, I'm coaching you hard, right? Like this isn't an attack on you. You know what I mean? Do I need you to go get this rebound? Do I need you to box out? Do I need you to sprint to the corner every single time? For sure. But that has nothing to do with you as the person.
Yep.
Because 10 years from now, I want you to be able to call me and we can go get coffee. We can go eat. I don't care if you score 2 points or 2,000. I hope you score 2,000. That'll
Yep.
help me and you. I need you to score 2,000. But I really care about when you're done with this, can you call me and say, Trish, you got me ready for life? Like you got me ready and prepared to be the man I need to be for my wife, my kids, my family. That is ultimately like, in my young career, what I'm looking forward to.
I love it. Well, and I think something too that is as you really think about, coaching style and calling someone out, in different things, it's like the the thing for me, and it's going back to that 10% comment is, you know, I wish I had some people in my life that would have said, Phil, you're capable of more, right?
Yeah.
Like you're capable of more because you look back and you go, man, I was capable of so much more, but I thought I was doing what I needed to do, right? And so for you to be in that relationship spot where there is such a relationship that you can call someone out, you can say, hey, I know you're capable of more. Like that just
I always
elevates their level and their ability.
I always think like, what did a 20-year-old Tristan need?
Yeah.
Like, what did a 21-year-old Tristan need at this moment? And I needed that. Like, I wish somebody would have been like, hey man, everything that you're doing, I guarantee you will be here when you're 33.
Yep.
Go in the gym, stay another 30. Get another 150 makes up. Because
Yep.
everything you think from girls to party to will be there at 33. It's
Yep.
gonna be there at 23. It's gonna be there at 28, 20. I promise. Just go a little hard. And I tell these guys all the time. And honestly, Phil, we are blessed.
Yeah.
I go to sleep every night with the team that we have, and I sleep great. These
Yep.
guys are always in the gym. They're always hitting me up. They're always wanting to work. So I don't, the conversations with them would have been a little different, a little different than I would have had with me at the age they are. And we do a great job of giving them the ability. All our coaches here are 24/7. If you need any of them, they're always here and willing and wanting to help. So for me, I'm just super blessed that I'm in the position, and I thank God and I thank Coach McCaffery for putting me in this position, and honestly, it's a blessing.
Well, there is no doubt that, as it says, he who's trusted with little be granted lots, and you have been trusted with, you think about Tristan's work ethic at fifth grade, sixth grade, seventh grade, and grown into what it is, man.
Outside work ethic, outside.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm happy outside.
Hey, metal nets always sound cooler than the swish of the
Oh
knuckles.
man, I
I'll
remember
say.
my dad coached this team, man, and it was like the bad new Bears for real, man. Like it was six of us. It was six of us, and we couldn't afford any gym space. He had to pick all of us up, and we
Yeah.
practiced outside. And I remember we would go play, these teams, and like, my dad wanted me to be a guard. My dad's only 6 foot,
Yeah.
so I was kind of tall, at a young age. But he was like, "Oh, you're not gonna be maybe 6'2", 6'3". I can't have you on the post." So the team I was on, he took me off of and was like, "Hey, we'll have your own team, and you just go play point." And I'm like, "All right, I guess we'll figure it out." And I laugh all the time because some of the guys, man, we had one kid, he would get 4 fouls every first quarter. Now we had to play zone, and just growing up like that, and him just allowing me the space and to grow my game and make mistakes ultimately led to, like you said, the seventh grade me, the eighth grade me playing against grown men, to playing 16s and 17s and coming back. And now I'm going to St. Louis and playing in top 150 camps and this and that, and to go to it all started down there with him, and the vision he had for me. And now I have those same vision for my son, and even the guys we have here. I always laugh, and like guys like Josh Dix, for example. Like when he came to us, he was just coming off on a gruesome broken leg. And, me and him laughed last week because his first week was my first week.
Mm.
And just where we came from to where we are now, for him being, arguably one of the best two guards in the Big Ten. And he's always laughing like, Trish, remember some of the drills you had us doing? Like, you had us doing some crazy stuff, man. And I was like, I know, I was trying to figure things out. And now now we're like a well-oiled machine. Like we come in, we get our work in, we know exactly where our spots are, we know how to do everything. And again, I'm blessed to even be able to work with these guys. If they want to work, I just got to show up and give them I always say, I give you the canvas, you paint the picture. If in the middle of a drill, if you say, hey, I'm not doing this, I kind of do that. Let's do that. Let's
Yep.
do it. I draw this thing up for you, then I want you to paint it yourself. I want you to be creative and draw this thing in the best way you can. So, it definitely came a long way. I got a longer way to go though.
Well, hey, I was gonna say, well, I'm excited for the season ahead, but I'm also excited to watch your journey, man. And I know we're gonna do another episode in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, and just watch the progression of Tristan's career. So excited to be watching, but good luck on the season, and thanks so much for being on today, my man.
So thank you for having me, man. I appreciate you so much.